I love committing crimes, but I hate when I have to face consequences for them. So I decided to go to Thornbridge Manor to commit a crime against everyone there without letting anyone find out. I'm gonna silently knock out every single person in this mansion, and if I ever get caught or a body ever gets found, I have to reset the run. Then, to show off how good I am at not getting caught, I'm gonna make a giant people pile by pushing everyone off the highest point in the manor before convincing my target to jump on top of it. And I'll also put every explosive on the map under the pile and detonate at the end, hopefully sending everyone in the level soaring through the skies spectacularly, and none of them will ever even know it happened. I started by trying to take out the guards near the very beginning of the level, but it was tougher than I had expected. I got seen more times than I would like to admit. Unfortunately, however, all I have to knock everyone out is a gun I can't use, a banana, but most importantly, coins. Anyone who's ever played Hitman knows NPCs are absolutely addicted to coins. If they hear even the faintest jingling of a shiny nickel hitting the ground, they start heading towards it, no questions asked. I will be heavily abusing this fact along with the ample bushes around the manor for the majority of the run. This is pretty much the only strategy I can use right now, since if a single body is discovered, I will fail the challenge immediately. The thing is, I have a problem. I have nothing I can use to consistently knock people out without being seen. I didn't take the banana to be funny, it's the only quiet melee unlock I have. My hands are a decent option, but they're slow and much more noticeable. So, I began my journey to find something to use consistently. After seconds of searching, I found it. A baseball. The baseball is actually a very convenient choice because unlike items like the crowbar or hammer, when I KO someone from behind with a baseball, they fall forwards, whereas with other items, they'll be launched to the left, making them more likely to peek out of bushes and be seen. I forgot to mention this, but I'm only letting myself save twice while knocking everyone out, so I need to ensure that no bodies are ever found. I started slowly working my way around the house and taking out any gardeners or guards during the process. I took the best disguise I could and continued with the coin in the bushes strategy to take out most gardeners on the outskirts. That helps me have less people to spot me, but the most challenging NPC will definitely be the guards. Guard NPCs patrol much of the larger portions of the level, and generally have longer paths that they walk down, making them harder to predict. One moment it could appear that I'm alone with someone I want to KO, and the next a guard can walk over and catch me in the act, causing me to lose hours of progress. My first big objective was to eliminate everyone in the first zone, the hedge garden out back. This is a somewhat densely populated area of the map, but despite its relatively low population, this area is challenging due to how little line of sight blockers there are. The hedges aren't high enough to block vision across the entire garden, and there aren't as many bushes for me to hide the bodies in like before, so every KO has to be somewhere that both won't ever be walked to and somewhere that isn't exposed to the majority of the garden. I got spotted a lot in this garden, but eventually I found a strategy that worked. Like my plan for the house, I need to start around the edges of the garden and lure out whoever I can from the main area. Nobody can see over the garden wall that runs along the perimeter, giving me the cover I need to KO everyone who ends up here and stash them in the bushes for later. By replicating this strategy and slowly circling in the garden, I can whittle away at the number of people here until eventually it's just the woman who's waiting to take a family portrait of my target's family. Needless to say, that photo is not gonna happen, and in case you're curious, here's what everyone in the hedge garden looks like in the pile, and they make up about 10% of the population of the level. Now that I was done with the garden, I pretty much had no choice but to hope everybody was hidden enough to not get spotted later on. I moved on to zone number 2, the graveyard. In this area of the map, a fake burial site is being prepared for the target of my mission. This zone is definitely easier than the garden. There's walls and bushes everywhere, making it really easy to isolate people and hide them somewhere they're never going to be found. As I was just minding my business, knocking out everyone in sight, a body from earlier got discovered. This lady I left in the garden, I guess gets found by someone who decides to wander around, so I reset and make sure to hide everyone extra good this time, so surely that won't happen again. I then made my way over to one of the more annoying zones of the map, what I call Guard Alley. For some reason on this side of the house, there's just a ton of guards all standing around doing pretty much nothing. They're also standing next to a giant room with glass walls, so if I KO any of them near it, I'll be spotted or heard, almost guaranteeing I have to reset. Luckily, I already cleared out an area nearby, so I can just coin bait them over to some bushes, very slowly mind you, and pick them off one by one. I did have to hide 2 bodies in a bin, which I'm trying to avoid doing since I want to make the pile as big as possible, but a couple here and there really doesn't make a difference, I promise. You'll understand what I mean later. With that, Guard Alley was complete, and I had mostly cleared out the outdoors of the map, other than a few stragglers, so I decided to use my first save and move to the inside of the house. Since the first floor will be the hardest, I want to start there and work my way up. I have a bonus challenge inside the house in that I can't take out either the butler or my target until the very end, since I need both of them in order to convince my target to jump off the top of the map. I don't need to do that, but I want style points. This means I need to strategically hide bodies where the butler will never find them. So, if I asked you where the butler would never go, what would you say? That's right, the butler's office. He literally never goes into his own office, so I used it as my base of operations and stored as many people there or near there as I could. I did end up panicking and storing a couple people in the freezer since I couldn't get them to the butler's office before he walked in the room, but I'm sure they'll be fine. Plus, if they die, the cold kills them, not me, so I'm innocent. That's how that works or something like that. I continued wandering around the house, just slowly picking people off by baiting them into rooms, and someone got spotted again outside. I forgot to hide the detective, and apparently I had accidentally triggered an event just by existing in the level that caused an NPC to walk outside, meaning I had to redo everything I did in the house again. After that, I learned my lesson and hid every single body extremely carefully so as not to have any seen again, because that took an extra 2 hours of my life that I will not get back. I also used my second save after realizing I used the first one way too late. And no, I did not let myself use any of the autosaves because I am insane. I honestly thought keeping all the bodies hidden without using containers would be tougher, but this mansion has so many unused rooms, it was a breeze. For example, I took out these guards under the stairs and nobody heard or saw anything despite really heavy foot traffic in the area. Another important detail is that I'm pretty sure every NPC in this game has cataracts or something because they can't see further than 15 feet in front of them. I accidentally dragged an unconscious body across a hallway being watched by guards and they did not react even a bit. Since I had cleared out the outdoors area earlier, it made taking out everyone inside much simpler. I was able to lure people outside the house and KO them there, and everyone who was outside is now unconscious in some bushes, so I can just leave people on the ground outside without consequences since I've effectively turned the entire outside of this map into a hiding place. As I continued working my way up through the house, honestly, not a lot notable happened. There's a lot of walls, objects, and doors that block line of sight along with the rooms that nobody will ever enter, meaning I have tons of options for isolating people. Other than the exception of having to dodge the butler and my target at all times, I was able to take out everyone inside the first 2 floors of the house without too much trouble by just repeatedly baiting people with coins. Eventually, I made my way to the top of the mansion, and since I wasn't allowed up there, I took a new disguise temporarily. I still need my detective outfit later to get my target to jump onto the pile for me. There were only a few people up here, so I quietly took them all out using my coin strategy and put my people pile plan into action. Thanks to a bit of movie magic, I can make this 5-hour process of dragging every single person on the map to the attic without being seen by either the butler or my target happen as I'm saying this. With everyone gathered at the top of the manor, I began making the pile. As I coldly dragged and dumped countless people off the side of the manor, I felt a bit guilty. I mean, these people have families that I'm destroying, and for what? And then I remembered. This pile is gonna look totally super cool, so I knew their sacrifice was worth it. Once everyone was in the pile, I called for the butler. After all this time, I finally told him that I solved the case I was pretending to solve. He then called for my target to come to the top of the manor to meet with me, and they slowly ascended to the top. Since I want my target to be the final person in the pile, I block her and slow her down, giving me just enough time to KO the butler and throw him with the others. I only needed him to trigger the event, so after I talked to him, he was completely useless. The way I get my target to be the cherry on top of the pile is honestly a bit dark. I essentially tell her that her brother offed himself because of her terrible life choices, and she decides to do the same as him, conveniently in the same spot I've been dumping everyone. So she jumps off and I excitedly scurry down to see the pile. Now, I might be a bit biased, but I think the pile was magnificent. My crowning achievement, some would call it. We can ignore the fact that my target ended up in the fountain and not dramatically on top of the pile as I had hoped, but that's alright. I'm just glad I made such a staggering pile of meat. Now for what I've been the most excited about. I'm gonna send everyone flying. I took out the detonator and hit the button. That was the most pathetic wet fart of a detonation I have ever seen. It seems like there isn't enough explosive power and the bodies on the bottom are absorbing all of the impact. For reference, here's what it looks like with just a couple people. They go flying everywhere. I tried for hours, but no matter what I did, the bodies launched in the most pathetic way imaginable. I won't give up on this though. I strive to one day create the biggest ragdoll launch in Hitman history. I will return to this challenge in the future. I need to replan out my attack and take this more seriously. Thank you so much for watching, and I will return to this challenge one day with a vengeance.